You know that feeling when you're working, the clock is ticking down to your evening break, and all you can think about is the sweet freedom that awaits you once that last email gets sent? The anticipation is almost too much to handle. It's as though all the work stress will disappear and you'll have hours to relax, recharge, and finally do the things you enjoy. You picture yourself unwinding, maybe catching up on a hobby, spending time with loved ones, or, if you're like me, just having time to breathe without a million things buzzing in your head. But then when you finally clock off, something happens. The evening slips away. You find yourself scrolling mindlessly on your phone, binge watching a show you've seen 1,000 times, or getting lost in unimportant tasks. Before you know it, it's late and you've barely done anything that makes you feel good, accomplished, or truly rested. This used to be my routine, and if you're nodding along, you're probably familiar with the exhausting cycle of wasted evenings. We all dream about our free time, but when we finally have it, we let it slip through our fingers, often without even realizing it. But over time I realized something important. I was sabotaging myself. I was spending the very time I craved most, my evenings, doing things that didn't serve me or my future. So I made a conscious decision to change. Today I'm going to share 8 things I did to stop wasting my evenings after work, and trust me, it's made a world of difference. Let's dive in. Chapter 1. Routines and Structure. The first step I took was simple but game-changing. I created a routine. You might be thinking, but I don't want to be more structured. I want to relax. And I get it. Structure can sound restrictive, especially when you've just come off a long, stressful day at work. But let me tell you, when you have a plan for your evenings, they don't feel like wasted time. Instead, they feel like a gift. I started by carving out specific blocks of time for things I genuinely wanted to do. I made sure there was a transition period from work to home life. Something that signaled, hey, you're off the clock now. For me, it was a 15-minute walk after work or a 10-minute journaling session to reflect on the day. It wasn't complicated. But that little time frame gave me something to look forward to and allowed me to switch gears mentally and emotionally. So my advice: try setting up small routines that help you reclaim your evenings. It doesn't have to be an elaborate schedule, just a few intentional moments that help you decompress and refocus. Chapter 2. Digital Wellness. Raise your hand if you're guilty of scrolling through your phone or mindlessly checking social media as soon as you sit down after work. I know I am. And it's easy to fall into the trap of getting lost on your phone for hours. The problem with that? It not only wastes time but also drains your mental energy, leaving you feeling unproductive and more stressed than before. So, I took a hard look at my digital habits and set some boundaries. I decided to create a phone-free zone in my evening, usually the first hour after I get home. This time was strictly for me to engage in non-digital activities. Reading, cooking, exercising, or even just spending time with family. Sounds small, but it had a profound impact. I stopped filling my mind with noise and started focusing on things that actually made me feel good. If you've been feeling like your evenings vanish into your screen, I challenge you to do a digital detox in the first part of your evening. It's not about completely cutting off technology, it's about being intentional about when and how you use it. Chapter 3. Psychological Techniques. Next, I focused on changing my mindset around my evenings. See, for a while I felt like my evenings were only for relaxation. But here's the thing. Relaxation isn't always passive. There's a psychological trick that helped me shift this. It's called productive relaxation. I realized that doing something that wasn't work, but that also wasn't passive, like endless TV watching, helped me feel like I wasn't wasting time. So, I started dedicating a portion of my evening to a hobby or skill I wanted to develop. Something I could feel accomplished doing. Whether it was learning a language, practicing an instrument, or even just drawing, these activities gave me the feeling that I was advancing in something that mattered to me. So ask yourself, what small skill or interest could you cultivate during your evenings that gives you a sense of achievement while also helping you unwind? Chapter 4. Mindfulness and Emotional Intelligence Practices. Once I had some structure in place, the next step was diving into emotional wellness. You know, it's one thing to physically clock out from work, but it's another thing entirely to mentally and emotionally disconnect from the stresses of the day. I needed to find a way to shift my mindset and bring myself back into balance. I explored mindfulness and emotional intelligence practices, and let me tell you, they made a huge difference. I started with a simple 5-minute meditation every evening before bed. This was my unplugged time where I focused on breathing, letting go of tension, and reflecting on how I felt. Sometimes it was journaling or a short walk. Other times it was focusing on gratitude. When I made this a regular practice, I noticed a shift in my mental state. I felt calmer, more present, and more capable of handling the stress that may have carried over from my workday. Plus, it gave me a sense of emotional closure at the end of the day. If you're feeling like your evenings are filled with lingering thoughts and stress, give mindfulness or emotional intelligence practices a shot. It doesn't have to be long. Just a few minutes can make all the difference. Chapter 5. Social Strategies and Dynamics. Sometimes the biggest drain on your evenings isn't your work. It's the social dynamics you find yourself caught up in. Have you ever found yourself agreeing to plans or obligations that you don't really want to be part of? I know I've been there. I realized that my evenings needed to be about me, not about pleasing others or filling up time with social obligations that drained me. So I started saying no more often and being more selective about the social activities I committed to. And here's the thing. It's not about being antisocial, it's about protecting your energy and spending time with people who genuinely bring you joy. If you're in the habit of overcommitting, try evaluating your social calendar. Give yourself permission to say no when something doesn't align with your needs or goals for your evenings. Chapter 6. Creative Approaches for Habit Formation. Let's talk about habits. You've probably heard that it takes 21 days to form a habit, right? Well, that's not entirely true, but it's a start. I found that a creative approach to habit formation helped me stay committed to my new evening routine. Rather than focusing on the long-term commitment right away, I created smaller wins that built up my confidence. For instance, I started by committing to one new activity each evening, whether it was reading, stretching, or spending 10 minutes with a loved one. By creating these small, achievable goals, I was able to maintain motivation and slowly build a consistent evening routine that didn't feel overwhelming. The key takeaway here is, start small. Success is in the little things. Chapter 7. Energy Management. Cognitive and Physical Optimization. Energy management is huge when it comes to making the most of your evenings. And yes, we're talking about both mental and physical energy. What I realized is that after a long workday, my brain is fried, but my body still has energy to burn. So I began incorporating simple activities like stretching, yoga, or a short walk into my evening. It wasn't about getting a hardcore workout. It was about gently shifting from work mode to relaxation mode. On the cognitive side, I made sure to wind down with activities that didn't tax my brain too much. This could be reading a light book or doing something creative like drawing or journaling. This balance of physical and mental energy management helped me make the most of my evenings without feeling drained. Chapter 8. Integration Strategies. So, what does it all look like when you put it together? After incorporating these strategies into my routine, I found that my evenings no longer felt like they were slipping away. Instead, I felt present and fulfilled. But here's the thing. It's not about getting it perfect every day. It's about integrating these practices into your life in a way that works for you. The key takeaway is, make your evenings intentional. Even if you don't have a set schedule every night, creating space for activities that fulfill you will help prevent the wasted evening feeling from creeping in. And hey, if you liked this video, don't forget to subscribe and hit that like button. Also, let me know your thoughts on what I just shared. How do you reclaim your evenings after work? Let's keep the conversation going.